turned it off. You turned it off, Jerry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I must not be able to be heard as well as I used to be. But I'm Jerry Jordan. I was Director of Choral Activities at Ole Miss for 21 years. And I've been friends of Ed and Deborah Riddick for over 30 years. And they've been great friends. And James Edward is my friend as well. James, excuse me. But unlike most of you, I'm probably the only person in this room who was Ed's teacher, as opposed to being his student. Well, Ed didn't need to learn anything from me, but he did need to get an advanced degree, so he came to Ole Miss in the mid-'80s and worked on his degree. And I will say this, he's the only student that I remember ever having, and I think you'll know what I'm talking about, the only student I ever had whose head was always in perfect sync with his vibrato. Is that right, Ed? But Ed has touched every life in here. And just to hear those who've already talked, you can pretty well tell he's affected every life in here significantly. And for some of you, his influence on you has resulted in a great life rather than a mediocre life. And you'll never be able to repay him. But that's okay. He didn't do it for himself. He did it for you. I can speak from a perspective that most people don't have. I've judged choir festivals all over the world. I've courted every high school choir director I could get my hands on because I wanted their students. Heard a lot of high school choirs. I can tell you that Ed is the best choral director, collegiate or high school, that ever set foot in Tennessee. There's no question about it. I mean, the competitions he's entered, there's no count on the number of competitions where he either scored the highest score or just won it outright. Generally, the latter. Even if the judges didn't score it that way, everybody knew. And, you know, I was going to say at this point that he didn't do it with fear, but I think I'll skip that part. But from my perspective, I've always known Ed Riddick as the gentlest man, the most mild-mannered man, the sincerest man, the most caring man, the most consistent man. And to your credit, you responded incredibly well to him for whatever he is. You did a great job at Bartlett and at Arlington. And you know, they say that behind every good man is a good woman. Well, it's also true that behind every good choral director is another good choral director. And for me, that other good choral director was Ed Riddick. You notice he even used to wear a black shirt tonight. But Ed, in the mid-'80s, started encouraging his students to look at Ole Miss as a place to go to school. And I had been at Ole Miss 4 or 5 years, and the choir was getting better, but it didn't really get great until Ed Riddick started sending students to Ole Miss. It was great, Ed. I didn't have to teach them anything. They were ready made for me, and I didn't even have to pay them. you know, Ed, the great thing about that is not only that I got so many great students from you, but they're all my great friends now. They're the greatest people because they took after you not only musically, but personally. And it's enriched my life so. It's meant so much to me. And while I was at Ole Miss, it became the norm that most of the people in the choir, most of the students in the choir, came from Bartlett. By the time I graduated, by the time I retired in 2001, you know, by far the most number of students that I had come from Bartlett, and probably 1/3 of the choir, I'd say, was Bartlett students. And you know, those students left a legacy for me and for Ed. They performed all over the world. We entered competitions all over the world, and that group of students still holds the honor of having won more international competitions than any choir in America. And I have this to say. It wasn't just me winning those competitions. It wasn't our students that won those competitions. But Ed, you won them too. And for that, it puts me among all the rest of you who can never repay you. And I thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful retirement, my friend.